All right, guys, welcome to Short Story Long. My name is Sam Derrickson, joined by my co-host, Andrew Dial.
How's it going, guys?
This is the podcast where we share the work and play of working class Midwestern millennials. So thanks for joining us, guys. We're just going to go ahead and get this started. So I am a Snap-on dealer here out of Effingham, Illinois. And for a while now, I've been a pretty avid consumer of podcasts, just doing my normal day-to-day routine of driving down the road. And I think I speak for Andrew as well, as kind of the same story. Is that true?
That's right. Like I say, my name's Andrew Dial, and I own a business that sells promotional advertising as well as a metal fabrication business. And I too, driving around or in the shop, listen to a lot of podcasts. And Sam come up with an idea one day that we just need to do this. And I kind of blew him off, and he kept running with the idea. And before I know it, we've got equipment. So here we are.
So yeah, I mean, the whole idea of this podcast basically is to be entertaining. Obviously, I get a lot of entertainment from different podcasts that I listen to, and I just kind of want to give back to that community, be a part of the community of, broadcasting professionals, and in not such a professional way. The name Short Story Long comes from my uncanny ability to make literally any story into an hour-long ordeal. So that's kind of where the name came from. Basically, we're just going to pick a topic and talk about it at length and hopefully find it a little bit entertaining. So that's kind of what we're doing here. Dozer, how did we meet?
Well, I guess we could get into that. So my first vehicle was a Jeep, and I kind of got into Jeeps because my dad had a Jeep when he was growing up, and every boy wants to be like his dad. Well, I wasn't allowed to have a Wrangler because those were dangerous. So,
Very, yes.
Yeah, dangerous.
They could roll,
Yeah. So anyway, I got a Jeep Cherokee and, of course, lifted it and kind of gotten off-roading and joined this great site called Pirate 4x4, which a lot of you kids may not even know these days.
So that was back when the internet was young.
Yes,
and
small internet.
Before Facebook, actually, a lot of social media. Forums were the only source of information for most people to learn about whatever particular hobby, and the only way you could find out, how do I put this lift kit on? What accessories do I need? Was to talk to other people on the internet that had done it and posted on this forum. And I think both of us were a member of this forum. I had a Wrangler, one of those dangerous Wranglers. That
your dad didn't love you as much as my dad loved me.
That's right. My dad actually helped me buy it. And so mine was more of a mud truck setup than what I want to do, which was more of the trail ride, rock crawl type of scene. And I spent lots of hours on Pirate 4x4 trying to figure out what could I do to make this more capable for what I wanted to do.
Because you had plenty of room for improvement.
There was vast room for improvement. And so that ultimately led to me to this gentleman named Dozer_XJ. And he was in a town 30 miles away from me. I grew up in Mattoon. And there was a Jeep club, actually, in Effingham that I thought, well, heck, I could be a part of this. And I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, you still remind me of the first question I think I ever asked you about my cousin.
Well, let's hold off on that. Let's get to that. Let's circle back.
Okay, we'll circle back. So go ahead.
Is what I wanted to say is somebody in town started the Effingham Jeep Club. And it was kind of a drive your Jeep to the bar type deal. And a bunch of off-road guys like Randy Dozenbrock, Rick Dozenbrock, Nate Thompson, they all got in there, and it kind of became more of an off-road club. And we went legitimate and got incorporated, got lawyers involved. We had all the paperwork done. The club was a not-for-profit. We filed taxes on the club. So part of that is we had to have rules. So one of the rules was you had to have a valid driver's license. And the first thing, I think we went to a trip to Badlands and like advertised that the Effingham Jeep Club was going to Badlands, and Sam and his family wheeled together, his uncle and his cousin, and we ran into him at the campground at the Badlands. And what was the first thing you ever said to me in person?
In person, I think I said, I think my username was funk underscore 1964,
Yeah.
which was probably a red flag for Dozer. And the first thing I asked him was, hey, can my cousin be in your Jeep Club if he doesn't have a driver's license? Through some legal trouble for a little while there, my cousin was without a driver's license, but he had a Jeep, and I thought, hey, man, he can be in the Jeep Club, and I'm sure that didn't...
I had no idea what to say to that. I immediately wished I was not part of that Jeep Club at that immediate point.
But I guess it goes back to the rest is history. The Jeep Club is no more. I think it's still a Facebook group maybe, but...
That's about it. We dissolved the corporation and all that, but I was the vice president of it and ran the internet, or ran the website on it.
But anyway, I spent a lot of time in Effingham and met Dozer's whole family and group of friends. And
I guess we should tell my nickname is Dozer, by the way.
Well, if you haven't picked up on that yet, his nickname is Dozer.
When I was playing kickball in second grade, I was always a bigger kid. And someone was trying to stop me from going home and scoring a run, and they tried to block me, and I ran them over, and they used to call me Bulldozer, and I hated it because they said it to make fun of me. And it just kind of stuck, turned into Dozer, and everybody calls me that. Grandparents, family, friends, people, used to call the house in high school, is Dozer there?
Father-in-law.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I dated a girl in high school. Her parents never even knew my real name, I don't think.
Still don't.
I think her dad thought my name was Matthew. Because he would call me Matthew every now and again. I'm just like, I'll leave it. I'll let it run.
So basically, started hanging out a lot in Effingham, and eventually moved to Effingham, and I guess that's a whole nother backstory that we don't need to get into. But that's kind of how we met, and our friendship's just kind of grown from there ever since.
I was in college at the time, and I believe Sam was working at Animat in a factory.
So yeah, I worked in Mattoon at a factory, and I was just kind of a dirtball, low-life piece of crap, and I learned a lot from the culture here in Effingham is way different than Mattoon, and I think over the course of 10 or more years, I grew a lot as a person, and not to get all sappy or anything, but I mean, a lot of my life would never have happened without Pirate 4x4 and Andrew Dial Dozer,
That's
so
kind of crazy to say out loud.
I mean,
Pirate
it is.
4x4 got me where I needed
Pirate
to go.
4x4 changed my life. So I guess since we're on the topic, working at a factory, I'm lazy by nature, and I witnessed that the maintenance personnel seemed to just drink coffee and BS all day, and I thought, that's a job I can do. So there was an opening that came up, I put in for it, got it, and part of the duties of the maintenance personnel was actually doing some light machine work. Found out I had a passion for that. Fast forward, got a job in Effingham at Versatech doing machine work, and was there for a few years, and ended up finding a job with Snap-on, and been driving a Snap-on truck ever since. And honestly, I can't say that I'd like to do anything else. So that's kind of my employment story. Doze, you want to talk about yours?
Yeah, we planned on talking about our background before we got into how we met each other, but we're new here and we just went right into it. But I was born and raised in Effingham, married my high school sweetheart. We have 2 kids together and 2 businesses together. I guess that's the long story short. I'm used to, most of my family living within bike riding distance of me, and kind of left for a while, did coal mining in Southern Illinois, coal mining in Wyoming. And when I was out in Wyoming, somebody asked me, hey, like, what's your parents do for a living? And I told them, my dad owns a business that sells promotional products. And they said, well, why don't you work for your dad? And like, at that point, like, I'd never even considered it. I could probably go show you where I was standing when that person asked me that. Like, it hit me that hard. But I always wanted to do mechanical engineering because I wanted to learn how to work on Jeeps. I wanted to design Jeep parts. I got into mechanical engineering and mining was super hot at that time. This was probably around 2008, 2009. So this is probably getting into a tangent, but in the 80s, mining took a really hard hit, I think. So nobody went to school for mining in the 80s and 90s. So fast forward to the mid 2000s, all the mining engineers were retiring. And there was a huge void left. So all my friends I went to high school with that went down there for engineering went to mining engineering. And I was doing mechanical. And, these guys are playing with dynamite and bulldozers and dump trucks. And I was like, I got to get in on this. But I just, literally, thanks to Pirate 4x4, I could not focus at school. All I cared about the Jeep, went home on the weekends and did Jeeps. So I went from making C's and D's in engineering, switched to marketing, and I was on Dean's List every semester. And it was kind of funny because, when you're in engineering, everybody's just like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to have to switch to business. I'm going to have to switch to business school. Then you go to business school and you got the kids like, I don't think I can do this. I think I'm going to have to switch to recreation. It's like, this is super easy compared to engineering. We were doing like computer programming, and I think it took the Calculus 3, and I think there's a class called Derivatives I maybe have got to. I don't know. I couldn't do any calculus to this day, but irregardless, switched to marketing and went and worked for my dad for probably 10 years selling promotional advertising. And then me and my wife during COVID started a metal business. So we ended up getting going on that, and I left to help her for a while, and then we got an opportunity to take over my dad's business, and now we're kind of doing both. So that's where we're at with 2 kids, 2 businesses. We're either really smart or stupid. I'm not sure.
It's it's funny to think where life takes you. Like I said, Pirate 4x4 shaped what I did, and your schooling shaped what you did. I never went to school to speak of past high school. I took a couple college courses that didn't amount to anything. Decided it was definitely not for me. But one thing is, someone who's thinking about, should I go to school? There's so many different opportunities for you that don't require any schooling. And I'm not saying schooling is a bad thing, but obviously in your current role with Jedco, you use a lot of your schooling as part of your day-to-day operation, I would assume.
I would say some, yeah. The accounting classes kind of gives you an idea, and your finance classes, and I could probably have done it, especially at the internet. You can learn so much on the internet. I mean, the whole metal business, I learned everything on the internet, maybe except for a little welding when I worked at the welding shop. I could have probably done it without it. It probably did help, but I'm sure my parents paid $50,000 to $60,000 for that experience. I'm not sure if it helped that much, but
did play a lot of beer pong though.
Yes, I was the reigning champion at Edward 40 Hands a few times. So 38 minutes, if anybody's counting.
So that is a force to be reckoned with. That is, I think in our younger years we played a lot of drinking games, and I don't think anybody dominated either shotgunning a beer or Circle of Death more than Dozer did. So
I don't know if that's good or bad, but
it's not necessarily bad. I mean, I don't know if you'd put it on your resume, but it's definitely not bad. So part of a kind of a satire thing, the whole first stint of the Dozer at Jedco work, we call him a ballpoint pen salesman because a big portion of promotional marketing is ballpoint pens. I mean, everyone has either a hat or a pin with their business name on it.
Right. If not, you're a loser.
Exactly. So take that to heart. But no, I mean,
Write that down.
So we just kind of joke. His profession is selling ballpoint pens, kind of oversimplifying what he does is ballpoint pen salesmanship. So, and there's a convention in Las Vegas, the PPAI show, and I think I called it the ballpoint pen convention or something. I'm pretty sure you were pretty butthurt about that.
I remember being butthurt for some reason. I don't know why.
So,
how dare you? This is $1 billion industry.
So basically, don't give a damn. But yeah, so what is the number one question that people ask you about promotional products or in your day-to-day life, or better yet, what is your least favorite question in your profession that you have to answer all the time?
Probably, I actually talked about this today with my wife, who works with me at both businesses. I think my least favorite question is, what's new? Everybody always wants, what's new? What's new? And like, I guess I'm too close to the forest to see the trees, because to me, like, nothing's new. But the salesman that was in there today, she's like, you know, how you answer that question is, what's new is anything you haven't bought yet.
That's actually a good response, because I get asked
I
that
thought that
a
was
lot.
good.
That is good. I'm going to have to use that one, because that's a huge question asked all the time is, what's new, Snappy? Or what's the deal of the day?
Yeah.
Like,
anything you've not bought yet.
Exactly. I'll make you a deal,
and I will
bud.
say I'm more passionate about the metal business than the promotional business. So I stay a little more up to date on tools and new things in the metal business. So, you know, the promotional business, I'm maybe not necessarily on the cutting edge, and people, what's new? Like, you know, I don't know, tri-blend shirts. I'm not sure.
So I guess one could say there's not a heck of a lot that's super sexy about promotional products. I mean, kind of like you just said, like it's almost a joke at some point. Like, you know, what's the new thing? Like, oh, you've got to see these new polos. They've got a shirt pocket that you would just blow your mind. So,
what do you get asked a lot, Sam?
So aside from the, you know, what's new, I guess I don't know if it's a question or a statement, but the warranty that Snap-on tools carry for a large portion of the line is typically mistaken for everything that we sell. So, I mean, a guy will have a electric drill from 15 years ago that just randomly stopped working, and he's just so completely upset that it doesn't have a lifetime. Well, what do you mean? It says Snap-on. And so I have to deal with that quite a bit. And, you know, what do you mean it's not warranted? You know, I bought this 25 years ago, and I don't want to be one of those Snap-on dealers who's just super picky about stuff, because, I mean, some are. But, I mean, if you read in the actual, you know, black and white of the warranty, it's against manufacturer defects for as long as the original purchaser owns the tool. So, I mean, just because you used your screwdriver to pry open a brake caliper or something silly like that, and the tip breaks off of it, that's not a manufacturer's defect, you know? So there's a lot of give and take in that, and I try to do what I can, and I use the golden rule whenever possible. You know, if I was in this mechanic situation, would I want that particular service? And typically the answer is yes, and a lot of it's give and take. I mean, if you treat me good, I treat you good. So I guess my number one most asked question is this warranted or is that warranted? So that's what I deal with.
And that was a glimpse into short story long.
Yes, that's why we call it short story long, because
and I do want to circle back to how we met. So Sam used to be the friend that I would warn people before I introduce him. So Sam's a little much, you know. Once you get used to him, he's a good guy. But Sam couldn't read the room. He was kind of loud, loud, and he would say what was on his mind, and that's what I always liked about Sam is you never had to worry about what he was thinking. You never had to think. You just knew what he was thinking, and he would be loud. He'd be loud in a situation he shouldn't have been loud in. And I remember one of our mutual friends, Cody. When I first met him, I was like, all right, this is my buddy Sam. Like, he's gonna be noisy, you know what I mean? Like, just give him a chance, And actually, to this day, Sam is still in his phone as Sam, Dozer's friend.
That's right. And I'm actually in Dozer's phone as Sam YJ.
Yeah.
So
based off of what he drove.
Yeah, that was my first off-road rig, was a YJ. So yeah,
but we got him whipped into shape.
Yeah,
he used to be super fat, and
no, I'm just a little fat.
He lost, and we got him into some dress clothes and took him to a wedding. And he danced with some girls, and the rest is history.
Yeah,
so,
never looked back after that.
Yeah, I'm still fat, but we'll see what we can do. Actually, when he lost all his weight, they actually drug tested him at Annabeth, thinking he was on drugs.
This is true. And
it didn't help that you're going around telling everybody that you were doing drugs to lose weight.
Well, I mean, that goes back to me being quote unquote a little much.
Extra, as the kids call it these days.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the kids call it these days, but I consumed a unhealthy amount of internet memes, and a lot of things I thought were funny, most people didn't think were funny. So to me, answering a question is, hey Sam, how are you losing all this weight? Meth apparently is not the right answer
to most people
when you talk to HR at the plant. So,
and another thing about me and Sam meeting, and I'm not sure how to phrase this kindly, but I come from an upper middle class family. Having my mom and dad, I grew up in a big brick house on a cul-de-sac. Parents drove brand new vehicles,
They call that white privilege.
Oh, okay. Something Sam doesn't have, so we'll talk about that later.
That's on an upcoming episode. We'll have to table that for later.
But anyway, I was always like, Sam, I'll come up to your house. We'd be working on his Jeep. Sam, nope, you can't come to my house. I'll come to your house. And I don't know, I probably knew Sam for 2 years before I seen his house. He's like, okay, I don't have a house like you do and all this. And anyway, I finally went and seen Sam's house. And I mean, it wasn't as bad as I think he thought it was, but
wasn't great.
I mean, I thought I was pretty unjudgmental on that. We were still friends.
It was essentially a warehouse. It was a beer.
No, I knew you when you were at the other house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, never mind. That was not as bad a house as the one I moved into after that.
It got worse.
It did not get better. No, so I guess since we're talking about it, my parents divorced after I turned 18, and I think I called Dozer. I did some
simple math.
Did some simple math. Turns out
we're doing this first episode.
Are we doing it? Yeah, I mean, why not?
Okay.
So turns out I was conceived out of wedlock, and
so it only took you 18 years to connect those dots.
It only took me 18 years, and I kind of took it personal that my parents divorced shortly after I turned 18.
You mostly blame Facebook.
Well, I did blame Facebook, and that's why I
didn't get a Facebook forever.
I did not get a Facebook because my mom played so much Farmville on Facebook that her friends from Farmville convinced her to divorce my dad. I was convinced of it.
Yes,
it was Facebook's fault.
The bitches on Facebook.
Yeah, so
her coworkers on Facebook.
Yeah, and so anyway, so
it turns out.
Part of
your dad ever going to listen to this?
I don't think so. I don't
okay, turns out your dad's just difficult to live with.
I don't disagree. He's a difficult individual. I get a lot of that from him. So anyway, that was part of the reason I dropped out of the Lakeland courses I was in. I went to work full time at Animet to support the household with the loss of an income, and we got kicked out of the house that I grew up in, and we moved into this warehouse that I was getting ready to tell you about. There's basically a big giant brick warehouse with 2 apartments upstairs, and I lived in one and he lived in the other, and I don't know how many years we lived like that before I finally moved to Effingham. It was a few years. but I was just living the white trash dream, working in a factory, had a truck I couldn't afford, and it was awesome. I remember diesel fuel back then was so expensive, it took me an entire paycheck to use my Jeep to go somewhere. I mean,
Yes.
it was $350 in diesel fuel just to go to the Badlands for a weekend, and we didn't get to do much wheeling, and
normally broke. In
we
fact, I had the saying, if we don't break, how do we know when it's time to go home?
That's right. And I mean, that just, not to start a different episode, but I mean, we talk all the time about how we had it so great and we didn't even know it. I mean, we were having the time of our lives, just completely oblivious to the world.
Responsibility free.
Yeah. I mean, no wife, no kids, had a job that paid for gas and beer, and that's all we needed. And I've heard that story from a lot of people, maybe a generation older, that, talk about just out of high school, how much fun they used to have. But we talk fondly about the good old days, quote unquote, and all the fun times we had and all the crazy stuff we did. And I mean, I think everyone kind of has a story about whatever the good old days were, but I mean, arguably our lives are leaps and bounds better than they were. We just have different obligations and different problems now.
Yeah, we've got it better, but different as well.
Different, but better.
Do you remember what your first profile picture was on Facebook?
Was it the sign of the tree?
No, I thought it was you with long hair. It may have been the sign with the tree. I thought it was you as a kid with long hair.
So I did. I had long blonde hair that
guess we could check.
That reached down to my buttocks. And when I went to kindergarten, I never got a haircut my entire life. When I went to kindergarten, all the kids made fun of me, called me a girl, whatever. I went home crying, and I think the very next week I got my hair cut off, and I've had short hair ever since. But I think that's what Dozer's referring to as far as my first profile picture there. But no, I was very reluctant to get Facebook in the beginning, and I think once I pulled the trigger and got Facebook, I think I was kind of like...
It was the sign in the tree.
It was the sign in the tree. So for those of you who are obviously listening, it's just a random sign that was nailed to a tree that the tree grew over, and I took a picture of it, and I took that as my profile picture because, again, remember, I was super against Facebook, and I didn't want the government knowing what my face looked like, and I didn't want my face on Facebook, even though that's what it was called. And once I finally warmed up to it and adopted the Facebook kind of stuff, I think I was more of a Facebook consumer. Yeah, I mean,
than I ever thought you would be.
Yeah, I was on it 24/7.
You and your cell phone with the keyboard.
I had an LG NV2 that the screen was like a normal cell phone, and then like the whole thing slid sideways. There's a full keyboard in there. Because I mean, how can you text without a full keyboard?
Yeah.
I'm very much a boomer, as the kids call it, in my lack of technical skill. So, yeah, enough about me.
Well, let's circle back to the show. So, we kind of wanted to do this show, and we came up with a mission statement. So this was Sam's whole idea, was the show, and we kind of worked together to pick the name out. And like some people say in podcasts, you got one person that really wants to do it and the other person is like barely wants to do it. So I'll credit Sam with really wanting to do it. And I'm just here to, I've done no legwork, and Sam's like bought the equipment and done the research on how to get this published. He's like, when are we doing this? I'm like, I don't ever want to do this. But anyway, here we are.
Yeah.
But what's our mission statement?
So the mission statement is to share the work and play of working class Midwestern millennials.
Right. So me and Sam, we're into off-roading, razors, Jeeps. We're into shooting guns, collecting guns, old cars, working on old cars, driving old cars, collecting old cars, just your average two middle-aged white guy hobbies. Sam smokes meats. I'm not into that hobby yet, but that's something I've been resisting.
He's on the resistance scale of like I was on Facebook, because he just knows that it's a
It'll
black hole.
It'll be a rabbit hole.
And
like before you know it, you're checking your meat in your underwear at 3 a.m, and
that's right.
And going to the store and spending your paycheck on pork butts and stuff.
So full disclosure, I have a strict time limit of 3 hours as far as meal prep goes. So if the piece of meat calls for more than 3 hours on the smoker, I'm out. I that is the extreme limit of my attention span. So that's maybe I'll get there one day when I'm a little older and wiser. Maybe, I don't know, but I'm not there right now. So
and then with me owning a few businesses and Sam being a professional salesman, and we both side hustle. We have friends who own businesses and have the hustle. We probably will talk time to time about business stuff, hustling, side hustles, stuff like that as well. So we're just going to talk about a little of everything.
Yeah, I think we're kind of your average slice of Americana, in that we enjoy a lot of things and we are in a lot of things. Not that our insights or experiences are in any way more valid or carry any more weight than anybody else's, but I think we've both done a lot and seen a lot, and we have a network of friends that have. One of my favorite things about selling Snap-on is I have access to an expert in just about anything. I mean, if I need to know about a particular vehicle, I can find a guy who knows everything there is to know about that vehicle, or landscaping, or aviation, or whatever. I've got a network of people that I can connect with, and I think it's that way for Dozer as well. He's got colleagues in his business that he can bounce a lot of ideas off of. We mentioned our friend Cody earlier. That's Cody Willenberg, who owns CW Motorsports
and Momentum Fab and
multiple other businesses,
CPW Rental Properties and Tire Spine, and
so he is a entrepreneur on another scale, and we could probably do a whole podcast episode just about him. And we may even have him as a guest on the podcast one of these days. But I think we'll be able to speak into different portions of multiple different areas of life. I think I'd like to do an entire show just about our classic cars and our collections and stuff we've had. I mean, I could do a whole episode just by myself of vehicles I've owned.
Yes, I've owned 45.
So I'm not quite there yet. I am at what do we decide? Like 41 or something. I'm a few behind, and I think
those are rookie numbers. You got to get those.
I think we're in a little kind of a gentleman's quarrel there about where we end up. I guess he who dies with the most toys is the winner, I think, is how that goes.
Sam did say you can't be a car collector by selling stuff, and I have a bad habit. I'm a love 'em and leave 'em guy. I got to sell the first one to buy the next one.
So we kind of make fun of him that he tends to lose money on every car deal he does. And going back to side hustle, I try to make money on every car deal, and I try to be in something at least at or under value as much as I can, just because I'm kind of a cheap butt to break it down. I don't like paying retail for anything. So, perfect example at this exact moment, I have probably one of the nicer vehicles I've ever owned, a Jeep Cherokee with a Hemi in it that I bought with some issues, and I'm arguably spending what it would cost to just go buy one, in order to make it something that would be good to drive, and it just adds to one of the projects that I've got. But anyway, that's kind of how I do things. The most difficult and regularly lengthy process imaginable. But hey, that's what adds spice to life. So anyway, yeah, so again, the short story long podcast, we just want to entertain. That's kind of what we're here to do. We got a ton of ideas we want to kick around, and
like my most common question I get when I tell people we are going to do this is, well, who's going to listen to that, or what are you going to talk about? And we're not really sure yet. I think we're just going to kind of put some feelers out there, talk about our life. We've got some ideas for episodes. We've got some ideas for parts of episodes where we're going to cruise the internet and look at crazy stuff and talk about it. And we'll just see, you know, whatever pinches a nerve for you guys, whatever we get feedback on. If we get an episode, gets a lot of views, a lot of shares, we may go that direction with it. I know as a podcast consumer myself, I look for value, and I don't just listen to podcasts usually just for strict entertainment. I like to be inspired. I like to be educated. I do like to be entertained, but also maybe gain some knowledge. So, we'll maybe just try a bunch of different things, and whenever we strike a nerve, we might head that direction. So
we actually set up a Gmail account. So if you would like to give us our feedback, we'd be more than happy to receive it. And that email is ask short story long @gmail.com. So simple enough. Just drop us a line, and we'll maybe read your email live on the air for our 7 listeners that we hope to one day gain. So thanks for joining us, guys, and
check out our Facebook page and our Instagram.
We don't have yet.
We're going to.
We're gonna have it. So
all right, thanks for joining us, guys.
All right, we'll see you.
It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G.
Snoop Dogg.